Something is lurking, a very serious problem. But it isn't a problem people tend to think about. In fact, many people can go their whole lives without this occurring to them as an issue. And at the same time, there are communities that are being irreversibly damaged by this unnamed menace. So, what is this mysterious threat, you wonder? Well, the extinction of minority languages, of course. Minority languages. Seriously. Now, I know it might seem a bit underwhelming, and I do understand how the extinction of the honeybee, for example, is going to be way more prevalent to us than half-dead language kicking the bucket. But the thing is, as of right now, there are prevention plans being instituted to preserve the honeybee. What is being done for minority languages? Not much. Barely anything at all, in fact. And the solution isn't all that complicated as it may initially seem. Simply by raising awareness on this topic, we'll already be doing a whole lot of good. But first of all, what is a minority language? Well, minority languages are classified by numerically small speaker population and lack of official legal status. So, for example, Yiddish, which is a West Germanic language historically spoken by the Ashkenazi Jewish community, is classified as a minority language. As the use of Yiddish diminishes, its transmission is interrupted and it grows into disuse. That disuse starts a vicious and perpetual cycle of no one wanting to speak the language because almost no one speaks it, which has eventually led the UNESCO to list Yiddish as a language in critical danger of extinction. Now, the Ashkenazi Jewish community has spoken this language for generations, but due to globalization and the commodity of living in a monolingual world, that is, a world that speaks one language, Yiddish has begun to die out. In 2019, there are an estimated 5,000 to 7,000 minority languages recognized globally. In only 100 years' time, 90% of these will vanish. But why save these languages? Why even care at all? Well, the truth is, when the last speaker of a minority language dies, that's it. Virtually all understanding of that language is cut off. All the accumulated wisdom, history, and advice that community has to offer is lost. We miss out on a unique bundle of ideas that belong to that culture. I mean, just imagine how much literature has been lost over the years because of simple negligence and people not wanting to learn a new language. Of course, learning a new language isn't easy, but I don't believe that to be the issue. The way our society is evolving is putting these languages at risk. We're entering an era in our history where learning is becoming mechanized with the use of technology, and that requires the use of one singular language to function, be it binary in computers or English in everyday use. But essentially what these means is that these languages will become an obstacle and a hassle for the course of communication. But we need the perspective these languages have to offer in order to move forward. It is even scientifically proven that different languages think differently. So, for example, depending which language they're using, German-English bilinguals categorize motion differently. Spanish-Swedish bilinguals perceive the passage of time differently. And Dutch-Farsi bilinguals perceive musical pitch differently. But apart from all the knowledge, the folk stories, the culture, the different perceptions and worldviews we can acquire from minority languages by keeping them alive, there's a very important human aspect to helping preserve these languages. In my eyes, there is something so incredibly melancholic about the idea of a last speaker. It isn't just the loss of linguistics, it's the loss of a community and of a culture. The last speaker. I would not want to be that person. Would you? Sometimes, the loss of linguistics itself isn't as upsetting as the trail of travesties that death leaves behind as it slowly, painfully, and tragically passes away. This humane element in our empathy is somehow lacking, though, as we continue to choose monolingualism, rather preferring to live in ignorance. I mean, these languages are an easy thing to forget about, an easy thing to not even know about. Let's face it, these wilting languages are the past, and an interconnected world is the future. It's our present already, and it is a good thing, do not get me wrong, but it doesn't include a language only a small subset of people speak, let alone a very old language. But sometimes archaic things should be preserved. You can almost parallel minority languages to World Heritage Sites. Can you imagine if gradually over the years, people decided we shouldn't upkeep century-old churches and romantic castles from the Middle Ages, whose walls have eyes and have been through wars, famines, natural disasters, social revolutions, innovation, and the evolution of the human race itself? If they started decaying as the years passed, and ignorant people would say, it's such a waste of time and resources to preserve some old bricks, when instead we could be using those resources to build state-of-the-art skyscrapers and very important and useful modern architecture in the form of walkie-talkies and blocks of glass and concrete. Why tear down historic buildings to build new ones in their place? They can coexist. Here in La Comunidad Valenciana, I think this balance is achieved. Valenciano is legally recognized, and that means it doesn't start the process of dying out and incentivizes transmission amongst future generations as it is taught in schools. Valenciano is very much alive, with communities that use it on a day-to-day basis. It adds so much uniqueness to this region and makes it stand alone and not be comparable to other parts of Spain that stand out in their own right because of their own minority languages. I, however, used to not see the value Valenciano had, or any other minority language for that fact. I thought Spanish was the only language that could be spoken in Spain. I didn't understand why people were so fussy about being able to speak Valenciano, or Catalan, or Vasco, or Gallego. I thought Spanish was the only language that could be spoken in Spain. I myself was ignorant. I fell victim to not believing minority languages have any value. Because again, behind the language is a culture, a set of traditions and beliefs. Cutting off that linguistic part translates to a loss in the inside of the culture. And I know this firsthand, as this has happened to my family. My great-grandma was a Ukrainian language and literature teacher. My grandma grew up in Ukraine, and to this day speaks Ukrainian fluently. My mom grew up in Estonia, but nonetheless has a strong connection to Ukrainian heritage. She was born there and speaks the language. I, however, cannot say I have any bond to my Ukrainian heritage, as I have never been there and don't even speak the language. I speak Russian with my mom and my grandma, which has led to many assumptions of us being Russian, even though we have no connection to Russia at all. And I have explained this countless times when asked where we're from, but people don't care. The language we speak often defines us. It shapes us. Language is our direct bond to our ancestry and identity. And we aren't the only ones this has happened to. Many other families leave their home countries and opt for learning and adopting the language spoken in the area they move to, which often means the fourth generation isn't learning their minority language, their parents' mother tongue. So it is up to us. It is up to the fourth generation, the future makers and world changers, to do something about it and change our attitude towards these precious cultural gems that are these languages. As my grandma would say, starting the job is doing half the work, or, in her native Ukrainian, "Спочати роботу, півсправа зробити." Thank you.